Are Lothern Seaguard any good in patch 6.1.3? See, I thought there'd be zero demand for high elf stuff like this because I figured everybody played them, but maybe that was 5 years ago in the second game. Want to see more? Like, comment, and subscribe. And I haven't been begging, but donations to my Ko-Fi are great too. I'm trying to up my game. Now, going back to trying to up your game by delivering a quality video on this quintessential hybrid unit. Recruited for 650 gold and 163 upkeep. The basic model comes in ultra scale with 90 entities and 6,120 health between them, which are very important figures. In particular, 90 entities means it's as many as Empire Crossbowmen, so no matter how well it fights in melee, 90 entities means that the unit has fewer warm bodies to throw at the enemy. 68 per entity is not high enough that magic won't wreck you. Armor 40 is entirely decent. Leadership 70, if judged against missile units, is exceptional. For example, Dwarf Quarrelers, no shrinking violets, come with 64 default. Speed 36 and charge speed 43 are, as I view it, very good figures for humanoid factions. Melee attack begins at 22 with an attack interval of 4.2, not super fast, still a ton better than halberds. No splash damage. Melee defense begins at 32 on paper, but we'll come back to this. Weapon strength 28 is split between base 20 and armor piercing 8 with a bonus versus large of 16. 16 is very decent, and more to the point, an Empire Spearmen unit does WS25, split base 17, and AP 6. For this attack interval, the extra AP is very good. In fact, bonus versus large is 1 less at 15. Charge bonus is 4 for Lothern Seaguard, and mass is 100. Now for ranged combat. Ammunition begins at 22 volleys. Range is 165, and here we begin to encounter the eternal criticism. Why not just use archers, which have range 180? Well, there are times when you absolutely would, but archers are not going to block boar boys with their slender physiques and lack of spears and do very well. Missile damage 17 is split base 15 and armor piercing 4. This is 1 less base damage and 1 more AP damage per arrow than regular archers, meaning that the Seaguard will overperform against more armored targets when compared. It's slight, but it's there. Reload time is a comfy 11 seconds default. Total accuracy is the default 20. Calibration distance is 120, which means it's extra difficult to hit things past that range. Calibration area of 5.3 means that there's considerable spread, and there is no multi-target penetration. How this compares to archers is interesting. Archers have a longer calibration distance of 140 to go with slightly longer top range, at least stock versions, but calibration area of 5.7 means that there's even more natural spread, so the Seaguard are a little more accurate. The Lothern Seaguard with shields costs 750 gold and 188 upkeep. The shields added provide 55% small arms missile parry chance from the front. Their speed is reduced to 33 and charge speed to 40. Still decent figures, but this is to say, yes, there are advantages beyond price to get the cheaper kind. Melee defense shoots up to 40. Mass rises to an in-game value of 150, so this version is simply more difficult to run over. Both varieties, in common with other High Elf infantry, get martial prowess, which holds unless hit points are below 25% in the current era, providing plus 2 melee attack and plus 12 melee defense otherwise. The defense means the shields version would begin rank 0 with 52. Both varieties can hide in forest, have charge defense versus large, and have charge reflection, though being thrown 100 feet by an angry mammoth will not help you actually use that damage bonus. In the redline skills, actually you need to go no further to find Insanity, because they get benefits from 2 3-pip skills. Militia Master like the Spearmen get, and Bowmaster like the Archers get. In the former case, 3 pips grants plus 6 melee attack and plus 6 melee defense. For the latter, ammunition plus 20% and 8% reload time reduction. There is no doubling up for the rank 7 boosts. Favorable Winds grants armor plus 10, missile strength plus 12%, and missile resistance 15%. In the tech tree, Spear Wall would add plus 10% weapon strength, Naval Discipline adds plus 5 leadership and plus 5 melee defense, so we're up to 57 at rank 0 for Shields version. And that's without the redline skills. Appoint Sea Masters grants plus 2 recruit rank for this unit type, Archery Prowess grants reload time reduction 15%, which is big, very big. Trumpeters grants plus 5% speed, Precise Fletching grants ammo plus 20% and missile strength plus 10%, Light Ithilmar armor grants plus 10 to armor for both varieties. Recall Colonists grants upkeep minus 5% and recruitment cost minus 10%, and those costs are not trivial. This doesn't get into more specific lord and faction boosts, but it establishes that you can boost the unit considerably in campaign. So how do we use Lothern Seaguard? Let's flip the perspective a little. The regular unit has its vulnerabilities, but also deters melee encroachment. Even regular units will find their melee defense hard to chew through, but what kind of unit truly, deeply, inherently despises this kind of elves? Missile cavalry. It doesn't much matter what kind either. This range is more than enough to humble basically the entire gamut, from javelins to outriders. In fact, it's only if the grenade launchers get close enough that you really have much to fear. Otherwise, that missile block chance lets you do damage with nigh impunity, and Dark Elf crossbows won't help because your middling armor means there's not that much gained. Every 10 seconds the enemy remains in range is 10 seconds you're doing a considerable amount of damage for little loss. And charging to keep you honest isn't going to work. Firing does not lower bracing. Now, that will break down if a second unit is charging instead, because you can't shoot at that missile unit while you're fighting in melee. We'll come back to this later. With armored melee cavalry, this isn't going to work as simply because you can't fire forever, the enemy will challenge you, and the easiest way to defeat Seaguard is to charge somewhere they are not. This means chariots are still dangerous, and so forth, because they can hit from the sides and rear if allowed to. But this is an issue of managing the army, not just the Seaguard. Seaguard can be used another way, defense in depth. You can have regular archers behind you, and you can either use the shields one as a front line, or do things like checkerboard and guard mode, and catch and repel threats before they get to the pure archers. But it doesn't mean you need to completely eliminate spearmen. Overdoing this brings risks. The more your formation hinges on precious few infantry, and not just entity count but units, the more dirty chaos tricks like magic or a pump wagon charge from the flank can wreck your day, and your army's formation. So there is no completely safe formation. What Seaguard do is bring you options. If an AI enemy has a lot of missile cavalry, it badly wants to flank you. If the enemy doesn't and only has melee cavalry and monstrous infantry, you want your archer fire focused on the front because, frankly, basic spearmen can handle a huge ton of that other stuff, or better yet, silver and guard, to help deter dirty chaos tricks. When the chips are down, you can still debuff enemy morale by shooting them with a few arrows, even when your unit is too damaged and shaky to be charging the dragon. So long as you have a few elves left and a few arrows in your quiver, you're still dangerous. If you're going to be atypical and think merely in terms of offense, think of Seaguard as flanking archers that can dig in and can't be easily bullied by light to medium cavalry. There are those who like to say that dogs will still trade or at least bog down such a unit, but in campaign, to put it simply, they'll get bullied by your own light cavalry and chariots if used in concert with Seaguard, and if the enemy can't bury your unit, they're taking range beyond typical archer fire as one-sided damage and have to split their efforts. Sometimes the best offense is a good defense, or at least founded upon it. Mainly because you're not going to use regular archers like that, that's just stupid. Not when the enemy has any mobility remaining. Now, having come this far, I want to be blunt about the downsides, which came up in footage I would have taken, but I had a few instances of not hitting the record button. Nonetheless, here's the blunt truth. This is an okay missile unit, it's a decent blocker unit, but it is not going to shoot and stab at the same time. And it's not going to be the best at either of those things. The global rate of fire nerf entering Total War Warhammer 3 hit elf units hard, the accuracy is not what you'd hope, and if you cannot keep opponents at an ideal distance, you're fighting to salvage the situation. In brutal close combat, the lower hit points of the unit will eventually be exposed, and therefore it is a lot better at padding your victories than single-handedly winning. The temptation is to see it as a money saver that can do both the job of a spearman and an archer at the same time. It's not literally at the same time, it's alternating between one and the other. Not that you should use high elves without magic, but if you're not using them with magic, your time to kill will feel very rough. Although these issues are going to be mitigated as accuracy improves with veterancy. So this is by no means a bad unit, but that's as a force multiplier, a switch hitter, not as better spearmen than spearmen and better archers than archers. No, it's not that simple, but being able to competently help either do the job of either is value to you. Make it count. Take care, and have fun cranking those melee stats so high your enemies will practically beg you to shoot them instead.